Yeah.
And
how often?
I've done it maybe 3 times since I've lived here, and I have maybe 2 or 3 more scheduled this spring in the next couple months. So more or less kind of every other month.
And are they... Is it with is it a private tour? Is it usually with locals or tourists, or how does?
Yeah,
usually
the company is called Experience Agave, and we fully operate in Mexico. Our company is based in Portland, Oregon, but it's mostly people from the U.S. that come down, some internationally and some locally, but our primary audience is in the U.S. at this point.
Okay, so Portland. Mm-hmm. I'm skipping around. We're going backwards. Is what we're doing. We're just like where we are in Brooklyn, all the way. We're just going kind of backwards on your bio. But okay, so you were in Portland. Tell me the story about how you ended up in Peru. You had been working in a bar, right, for a while?
Yeah. I was managing a bar in Portland called Church, and I was invited to participate in a cocktail competition. It was myself and another bartender. We were 2-person teams, and the competition started with 8 teams, and each month 2 teams would go head to head. So there was like a preliminary, a semifinal, and a final, and it was over the course of 7 months. So we competed 3 times because we went to the finals, and we ended up winning that. The competition was hilarious. It was like lucha libre themed, in the sense that 2 teams going head to head. There were rounds. No, but we did have to dress up. We had to create basically a team name. We had to have like an entrance song like luchadores do. We had to be in costume and then do these rounds. So the first round was like a low-proof cocktail. The second round was a surprise kind of like a surprise cocktail. They revealed the ingredients and we had to just make something. Yeah. And then the third was something, it was like a question and answer round. And then the fourth round was like the battle. And it was a high proof cocktail made with ingredients that they assigned us. So essentially it was like a distribution company in Portland that really wanted bartenders to touch their products. Totally. And we did. And it was great. Yeah. Because you really need to, we had nearly a month to prepare for each competition. And at the beginning of each month, they'd say, these are your spirits, create. And so we had almost a month to really like put it all together. And my partner and I that were competing were both really competitive. So we're like, let's do this. Yeah. Let's go hard. And we did. And we won. Our last competition was hilarious, the final. We were assigned 1776 bourbon, so obviously we dressed as we rented costumes and dressed as revolutionary fighters, and I think we had the Patriot projected behind us while we were bartending.
Like full on competition.
We had one of our friends,
high stakes.
Oh yeah, high stakes. One of our friends was a battlefield drummer out in the crowd. Because people were awesome. People were invited to come like choose a side essentially, or just like root on the 2 teams that were going head to head in the finals. And the other team, they had a rebel or rebellion. I can't remember what bourbon it was.
Is this, I'm going to just pause you for 1 second.
Sure.
Is this the Beastie Boys playing in the background? Oh no. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other team was dressed as stormtroopers, and we were revolutionaries. And as the night went on, it was wild with our battlefield drummer, and we ended up winning. And up until about a week before the competition culminated, we were vying for a giant like wrestling belt that said Northwest Cocktail Champion that we would hang in our bar until the next year when the competition happened again and someone would take it as the new champion. And I was like, yes, I want that. We have to have that. And then right before the competition, they announced a trip to Peru with the Pisco company, with Machu Pisco. And so in my head, I was like, I definitely want that trip to Peru because I am going to just move there.
Yeah.
I want that.
Was that something that was already on your radar, Peru?
Oh. Yeah. Well, not necessarily Peru, but South America. Yeah. I had always kind of, for the whole year, almost the entire year previous, I was thinking, like, I really want to get to South America. I've traveled extensively in Mexico. I lived in Puerto Rico. I spent some time in Central America, and now it's like I got to go to South America. I got to get there. And then the competition came up, and then 7 months later we won and were awarded the trip. And it's kind of a bizarre thing when, I had to say, like, I'm not coming back. Yeah. I'm gonna stay.
Thank you for the opportunity. Very much. Peace out.
Yeah, just because, I felt the weight of that a little bit, but at the same time, I was like, this is my life. This is really important to me. This is what I'm doing. We're just without kind of like blinking. I knew it's what I
think that's admirable. I think it's interesting. I mentioned this several times yesterday. I was interviewed like 5 times on different podcasts, and they're mostly like entrepreneurial, but they were all women. And the topic of the kind of whole, like, men versus women, that topic kept coming up in different forms. Mm-hmm. And it's not a topic that I typically buy into in the sense, like, the whole versus, like, men versus women.
Right.
We're different. In any case, the conversation around the way women make decisions was a very hot topic. And you could probably argue that when faced in a situation like that, I know I would have considered it, especially younger. I would have been like, oh, I have this opportunity. Gosh, I want to live there, but somebody else is paying for it, and I have this responsibility here, and I'm going to come back. And it wouldn't, like, I would make all of the decisions around everybody else's needs and wants, as opposed to be like, this is a dream of mine. Here's an opportunity that just literally landed in my lap. I'm going for it. Mm-hmm. So kudos to you. That's awesome. How long did you live down there?
I was there at first for about 13 months. And I left Peru to move to Mexico specifically to work with Experience Agave. And it was pretty wild. The week or so before I was leaving Peru forever, I thought, I volunteered at a distillery in Ollantaytambo, which is in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And I had lived in that town previously. I knew that they were getting a still. I knew they were creating a distillery. And so that's why I asked, like, hey, can I come learn from you guys? And I hadn't met the master distiller, but I met him when I showed up for my first day and really just, like, hit it off and saw what they were doing was something very cool. They were distilling a cañazo, which is a sugarcane distillate from Peru that's really, it's mostly in the Andes, and it's really kind of like fallen out of favor. It's something that you buy cheap in a market in a water bottle, and what they were doing was taking that and refining it, so giving it a second distillation and creating something really beautiful with it. And so I got there and was like, whoa, this is great. And we ended up, he wasn't entirely sure what he was working with, but he knew it was something that he wanted, obviously, to order a still from Portugal and bring it in and create a distillery doing it. But when I came in, I was like, this is kind of like a rum agricole from Martinique or a cachaça from Brazil. And he was like, really? And he immediately he's like, okay, try this, let's try this. I think we tried like everything in the distillery. And I was creating tasting notes and just kind of exploring what they were making, and worked the week. It was great. And he asked me to come back, or asked me if I would be interested in coming back to do some more work with them. And of course it was like, yes, but I'm moving to Mexico. And he was like, we can work with that. And so I moved to Mexico. I started training, doing the tours, and we have an off season for the tours. which is summertime when it's really rainy in Mexico. And so during that time, I would go to Peru and work in the distillery. So I was doing back and forth for about a year and a half between Mexico and Peru.
My jaw's on the floor. She's my hero.
I still
love it.
Oh, those days.
Yeah.
Lovely.
But you're working on a Pisco project right now, right?
Yes. So even, the trajectory back a little bit is, when I first got to Peru, I was with the Pisco company for 1 week, with 7 other people from Portland. And we spent the week with the brand, and then after that, they all left and was like, oh my God, I live in Lima now. I live in Peru. Okay. And I started reaching out to people, and I made an appointment to meet the owner of Piscologia, which is now who I work with. So we made a date to meet and have a Pisco sour, a maracuya sour actually, and meet each other first, and then she was going to take me to the distillery where her Pisco is made. And so we met each other in Miraflores, in Lima. We got our sours, and we're kind of like, hi, nice to meet you. Small talk, awkward. And where are you from came up. And I was like, Spokane, Washington. And she was like, me too.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, so it was this wild meeting of being like, wait, what?
Across the world.
Yeah, all the way. We didn't ever know each other in Spokane, but met each other in Lima, Peru.
How many people live in Spokane? Very big place.
It's big.
It is big?
Well, 500,000.
Okay. So
and then
it's like a little smaller than San Francisco, right? Can I ask you, Catherine, what's happening here? She's like...
the peated bourbon old fashioned.
Okay.
And some penicillin.
Oh.
Just peated bourbon, lemon, honey, and fresh ginger.
Okay. And you wanted a cocktail also, right?
You want a cocktail.
Order something.
Yeah.
Get something. I'll take care of it.
I know what you want.
I'm going to try.
I'm going to have the Manhattan.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Do you normally drink
Thank
it like
you.
this with ice? Wait, hang on one second, Catherine. Like that with ice?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way he can make one up? Yeah, I'm freezing my ass off.
Oh, yeah, an old-fashioned
You
up.
can have this one if you want. I should probably try this one, right?
Oh, yeah,
before
try
I
the
have that.
chocolate.
I haven't tried it. She was just like, time out. Okay, we're going to just take a pause right here so we can order drinks. Actually, we can just come back. And Catherine, she's so sweet. She's literally the best human ever. And she was laughing at me this morning because she's so supportive. She has binge listened to every episode I do. And then while I was at this conference, I had 2 that I had recorded a while ago. It was like a 2-part about like sex and dating. It was super weird. And it published while I was at the conference, which I had forgotten that I had scheduled it. And so she's texting me and she's like, oh my God, and you said this. I'm like, what are you listening to? I don't even remember. And I recorded them back in October, I think. So I don't even remember a lot about what we were talking. I mean, I know the gist of what we talked about, but anyway, she's more of a fan than I am.
So
she's
sweet.
bringing you drinks.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
With the black cherries.
Thank you.
Is there an a real name for the black cherry, or is it just black cherry? Like,
Yeah, there's like different varietals. So like an Amarena cherry is the one that I'm thinking of. I think that's that it's like really rich and delicious and in real syrup and not like formaldehyde.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Cheers.
This is what we do on our podcast. We just drink and cheers and all the stuff. At least it's not White Claw.
Yeah. Have you had White Claw before for an episode? Or?
Yeah, with Danny, actually. We did one just a few weeks ago, and I just built a recording studio.
Oh, cool.
And it's so dreamy, and I love it. And I think he was maybe my second episode in there. And I have a bar with basically the booze from the people that I've interviewed. So there's the Gran Ovejo in there. There's Griffo in there because I did something at the Griffo distillery. And then there's some wine. And then I went to the store before because I was like, I have a fridge. And I was like, I should at least have like sparkling water. And I got White Claw.
Nice.
Someone was like, that's not sparkling water. That's booze. So he came and he was like, I've never tried it before, so I'm going to drink it. And he hated it.
I don't think I've tried it.
It didn't, I mean, it just tasted like a fruity sparkling water to me. But I like sparkling water if it's just plain.